Hi everyone, Jade here from Nested Knowledge. Today I'm going to talk to you about how to use meta-analytical extraction, or MA extraction for short. So meta-analytical extraction is a module, an optional module that's available in every nest that allows you to extract quantitative data from your underlying studies. We host quite a specific methodology for MA extraction, which involves extracting data from interventional studies, and so thereby having defined data elements such as baseline characteristics or outcomes and specific time points. So if you're not doing a review that encompasses those things, I would suggest looking into tag tables. That way you can input tag tables and download that as a spreadsheet and maybe use that for further analyses external of nested knowledge. But for the purposes of this video, we're going to talk about how to use MA extraction. So since it's an optional module, the first thing you're going to do is head to Nest Settings and toggle it on. So we'll scroll down to Meta-Analytical Extraction and toggle it on here. And once you've done that, you'll notice on the left-hand side, MA extraction pops up as its own module here. You have two modes, standard or dual or single or dual, and that refers to the number of reviewers. And so this, for the purposes of this video, we're going to talk about single extraction, but dual extraction works similarly to dual screening in that you'll have two reviewers go in, extract the data, and one third adjudicator adjudicating those results. Great, so once you've turned that on, the next thing you're going to do is head to the Configure MA Extraction page, which is this little gear icon to the right of MA Extraction. So once you do that, you'll notice that it will host your tag hierarchy that you've built. They'll all be blue, they'll all be questions, there won't be any of these colours as you see here, but I'll walk you through how to create these. And so what you'll do in here, you've got a few options. You've got Smart MA Extraction at the top here, and that is covered in a separate video, effectively creating a meta-analysis from a research question and generating a meta-analytical outputs for you. But again, for this video, we're going to go through the manual use of MA extraction. First thing you're going to want to do on the right-hand side is to define your intervention hierarchy. So I mentioned for the purposes of this methodology, you're going to want defined interventions, right? And so typically we encourage you at the tagging stage to create a root tag, so that's the leftmost tag, and branch off with specific interventions, as well as other things such as PICOs, but for this, interventions. So all you're going to have to do to define this intervention hierarchy for MA extraction is find that interventions tag within this drop-down list, and once you click on it, it turns it purple. So maybe if I switch that to the patient characteristics tab, we can see, okay, yeah, that turns that purple, but we want, of course, the interventions tab. So that's all you have to do to define those interventions. The next thing you're going to want to do is define data elements. And data elements include baseline characteristics and outcomes, typically. Anything you want to extract quantitative data for. And so what you're going to do next is click on the tags that you want to transform into data elements, and that will turn them gold or orange, as you see here. So the first thing, maybe we start off with baseline characteristics. So here I've got median age. And when I click any of the tags, what will happen is this edit data element section pops up here. When you open up this drop down here, it's going to give you three data types: continuous, dichotomous, and categorical. So again, this program can be a little bit limiting because we've only got the three data types. So again, rethink if this is for you, depending on those data types that we can configure. Anyway, so continuous variable, is that can span any sort of value. Age is typically a continuous variable. Dichotomous, we've got dichotomous variables, so it's either true or false. A categorical variable is something that you can specify categories for. So for the purposes of this data element, we're going to leave it as continuous. Then we're going to define an expected time point. Is it a baseline characteristic? Is it an outcome? We know that age is baseline, so we keep it at that. We've got a direction, higher or lower being better. This is optional, you don't have to fill this out, you can keep this blank, but in this case, lower is better. For the purposes of this review, you pop in your units, you pop in your central tendency measure, mean or median, and again with the dispersion measure as well. And so you can imagine, okay, well, what about if we have mean age or median age, like multiple ways to represent the same variable that might differ across papers? You would have to create a new tag or a new data element for each of those. So you can see here, I've got a tag or a data element for median age, and I also have one for mean age, where the difference here, I've configured this as mean and standard deviation. So this is an example of a continuous variable. I'll briefly show you maybe a categorical one. So parent artery location, we've got different defined categories for that. So in that case, we'd select category, categorical, baseline time point, and specify those categories. And then lastly, sex is a good example of a dichotomous variable. You're either male or female at birth, and you can do so by selecting dichotomous, baseline, and again, actually, I might change that to having no direction and save to save that data element. Similarly with outcomes, so I've got some outcomes specified here. We've got neurological outcome, and instead of doing a baseline time point, we do an outcome. And so they're the steps in order to define your interventions and then to define your data elements. If you decide that you actually want to create a new data element while you're in this space, there's no need to go back to the configure tag hierarchy page. You can just click on create tag up here, and then you'll have all of the features that you'll recognize from the configure tag page, but then you can go directly back to the MA extraction tab once that's created. And you can similarly edit tags. So I've actually got this one selected currently, but maybe if I create a new tag, I can do so here and then switch straight to configuring it as a data element. So that is how you would configure your data elements, your interventions for MA extraction, and I'll talk about in a separate video how to actually use these to extract data in the MA extraction module. Thanks, bye.